Up this quiet country lane in a hidden corner of South Wales lies something quite special. So let's go take a look. Well, hello everyone and welcome to a very windy edition of Wild Your Garden today, but also a very special one because we are talking about the queen of British trees, and that is the beech tree, Fagus sylvatica. Now, why am I here? Why am I doing this video for you today? Because, well, look at that. I have discovered a secret, almost prehistoric part of the world in South Wales, and yes, people have driven past it day after day, probably without taking much notice, but I have discovered this ancient row of beech trees here in South Wales, which is absolutely astounding. I've never seen a collection of beech trees of this age and of this structure and stature. They are just incredible. So today I'm going to be talking to you about the beech tree, the importance of it, some of the effects that it has on the natural world in terms of the habitat that it provides for wildlife, and just showing you some of these awe-inspiring structures. So stick around as we talk about one of the most beautiful trees in the English landscape. So why is the beech tree known as the queen of British trees? Well, I think that's because of its stature. It's just so magnificent. It's so elegant in a way. When you see a mature beech tree, there is no other tree like it. Yes, we have the mighty oak, which is known as the king of all trees, if you're wondering, in terms of the British landscape, for obvious reasons, its strength, its structure, and the way it's had an impact in history for many thousands of years. However, the beech tree has more of a finesse to it, I think, and when you see the top of a beech tree from a distance, it almost has these kind of feathered fringes, and the branches, the ends of the branches are really fine. The buds are very kind of thin and pointy, and the branches just almost look feather-like. So it really has this elegance about it, which I don't think any other British tree has. Certainly we have a lot of elegant trees, but there really is something about a mature beech tree. I mean, just look at this root system as well, for example, where it's clinging onto the side of this embankment, which you can see right the way along here. These are all beech trees, and they line this road as far as the eye can see. And where I've been working just down the road, about another mile, I have been driving past. I've had the pleasure of driving past these trees every single day, and I'm thinking, I've got to show the world these trees, because I'm sure they've never been documented. There are some tags on them for no doubt tree preservation orders that they probably have on them, and just for the safety of anybody passing by in a car. But these really are incredible structures, and the fact that they are clinging onto these kind of stony banks is really incredible. Now, beech in a general rule will prefer kind of more calcareous soils, so stony soils, lighter soils. They don't do as well in heavy clay soils, but they really do go very big when they are given the chance. And the biggest beech tree in the UK is 45 metres tall, and that's found in Derbyshire in the Derwent Valley, and that is for you guys from the States, nearly 150 feet tall. So a massive tree that is. But some of these trees, what they lack in height, because they're stunted because of the very windy position that we're in, we're kind of overlooking some of the Welsh valleys here, so they are prone to a lot of winds from the southwest. They are stunted, but what they lack in height they make up for in girth and structure. They really do. That's just some of the most intricate and amazing spectacles you could find within the tree world, I think. Now, the beech tree has traditionally been used for many things in the past. It's a good firewood, it's good for making furniture, it's been used a lot for making utensils, like eating utensils. So it has a wealth of uses, and traditionally it has been the woodland where you would find truffles. So truffles particularly do well in the ground conditions surrounding the root structures of beech woodland. And beech woodland in itself, if you've ever had the pleasure of walking through a beech woodland, is almost a carpet of leaves. There's very little that can actually grow underneath beech trees because they create such a dense canopy. They have so many leaves on them, and the leaves are quite opaque, so they really don't let a lot of light in. So if you walk through the middle of a beech woodland in summer, it can feel quite dark, and so there are quite a few rare species of plants such as the red helleborine, I believe, and other plants such as box, which are some of the only few that will thrive in these very, very shady conditions. So it really does create like a bit of a monoculture underneath it, which is no doubt part of the evolution of this tree to help it thrive and to kind of knock out all the competitors. So the oaks, the ash, silver birch, pioneer species of trees, so that they can establish themselves as a woodland without letting anything else interrupt or let them take the limelight from these magnificent trees. So I'm doing my very best here, guys, to give you an idea of the scale of these trees by standing next to them. Now, this one you can see is at least 6 feet across at the bottom, and it's an estimate only, but after having been a tree surgeon for 10 years and been in adoration of trees, I spent a lot of time looking into them, researching them, and just simply admiring them. And I can tell you now that something like this is well over 300 years old, if not more, like 500 years old. So an absolutely incredible landmark. And where I am just now, the couple that live over the road where I've parked my van, because there's not many parking spaces on this narrow lane, came out and asked me what I was doing, and I explained I was making a video on these magnificent trees, and they said apparently the local estate started to try to fell them through the fear of them blowing over or causing some damage in terms of falling onto a car, and luckily the man that lives in the house opposite stopped them taking lots of trees down. Sadly they took 2 down, but I mean, hats off to the chap. He said he almost had to chain himself to the trees, but he stopped them being felled, because I mean, how can you possibly even begin to think about felling something like this for the sake of safety? I mean, sure, they're going to shed limbs in time, and no doubt they will have a shelf life as with any living structure, but why would you try and make that any shorter than it needs to be? So the beech tree itself actually is monoecious, which means it has both the male and the female parts of the flower on the same tree, so it doesn't need any trees nearby, and it's actually pollinated by wind, so it doesn't even need insects. So that's why it's lasted for millennia in our landscape. And some of the other benefits for wildlife, apart from the fact that it's got these flowers which turn into what are known as the beech nuts or the beech masts, which are the little nuts found within inside the little casings that I'll put a clip in of now, which are loved by obviously squirrels, lots of mammals like wood mice, and some birds as well. Birds like the hawfinch will eat them. So they do have a wealth of predators, if you like, when the nuts are established. And you can actually eat the fresh leaves of a beech tree when they are just coming into leaf, which are, crikey, wind's really getting up now. Let's hope one doesn't blow over and I eat my own words. Perhaps I'm going to lose the camera. So one of the benefits of these magnificent trees when they get to this kind of an age is they create these really gnarled, twisted structures similar to the roots that are behind me, but also they create these pockets and holes which are ideal for nesting birds. So things like our nuthatch, tree creeper, woodpeckers, they're all going to use the holes that are provided by limbs dropping off and these little rock pockets forming in the main trunk of the tree or from branches that have fallen off the tree. So they're great in terms of providing nesting potential, and for tit species as well. Blue tits, long-tail, not so much long-tail tits, blue tits, coal tits, great tits. Many birds will use the holes for nesting in. Now the leaves of the beech tree are actually edible when they first come out, and I love them. They're almost like the same colour as a larch tree when it comes into leaf in the spring, if you're familiar with those, because they are almost like a lime green colour. They're just kind of, it's just beautiful. There's nothing else like it really. So they're great when they come out, and you can tell the difference between them and a hornbeam, which is one of the trees that is very similar to a beech. One, because the hornbeam has a slightly more sort of concave and convex sort of structure in terms of its actual trunk, but also the leaves of a hornbeam are serrated on the edges, whereas the leaves of a beech are sort of wavy and slightly hairy. So that's one way to tell the difference between a beech and a hornbeam. One thing I love about this specimen, and it's not something by any means that I'm suggesting you go out and do, guys, is the way that people have carved their name onto the bark of this tree, and it's actually healed over very well. You can see there's a J there, another J there. It's not my name, by the way, I've not been here in the past. But you can see the way the tree is calloused over and healed itself, and it's great to think about the history of something like this as a landmark and who has stood here in the past and what they may have thought of these trees. Now, one identifying feature that you can use to ID these trees is the bark itself. Now, the bark of a beech tree, that's the 1 car an hour going past. The bark of a beech tree is very, very smooth. It's almost like a silver grey colour, and where you get like a mature oak tree and it's really sort of fissured and got sort of little gnarly bits of bark on it, the beech tree is very, very smooth, one of the smoothest barks you will find in our landscape. So a really good way of identifying a beech tree near you. Another interesting fact about the nuts or the beech mass from these trees is that in France, in some instances, apparently they still use these nuts to grind down and use them as coffee. Not sure how that tastes, but apparently they do. So another interesting little fact for you there about the fruits from this tree. Now, as many of you will no doubt know, as garden lovers, you may even have a beech hedge in your garden as well. So they can be clipped and tamed as a hedge, but if left, this is the kind of structure that they will create in many hundreds of years. And I've had the fortune of seeing here and recently on a trip to Scotland to look at some amazing habitat creation works, well, it actually was a layered hedge of beech in time that has been left to then grow. And some of these beeches, when they are put in as hedgerows, they are then layered to create a denser hedge, and then sometimes they are left, and on rare occasions you can find them then turning into monumental towers that was once part of a hedgerow. So a really interesting structure if you ever do see those. But the great thing about a beech hedge in a garden is that it retains a lot of its leaf through the winter time, so it's great cover and great shelter for a lot of birds and insects and mammals as well. So whereas a lot of the deciduous hedges will of course drop their leaves completely, beeches, usually up to a fairly decent height, 8 to 10 feet, will often cling on to their leaves if kept as a hedgerow. So should you plant a beech in your own garden? Well, I would obviously recommend it if you've got the space. Expect it to grow pretty tall, but obviously in no immediate time frame. They are quite a slow growing species, so they will take many, many decades to form a large tree, shall we say, 40-50 feet upwards, if they are planted on their own. Obviously in a woodland setting they can grow a bit quicker if they're forced up because they've got lots of competitors around them. But you should definitely consider planting some beech as part of a native hedgerow if you're looking to plant a hedgerow. And of course, guys, as always, check out the wildyourgarden.com online shop if you're looking for any bare root specimens. We've got lots of different native trees and shrubs that you can purchase, and we can ship to you if you're in the UK, so that you can add one of these beauties along with many other species to your wildlife garden. Now, I really hope that you've enjoyed today's video and you've got something quite remarkable out of it, and that is the sight of these magnificent ancient trees that I feel very privileged to have seen, and I hope you guys get to see one day too. And my words of wisdom to you today would be to go out, try and find some of your local landmark trees and just have a bit of a moment appreciating them, because many of them will have been stood for hundreds of years, and just imagine if trees could tell a tale, what a story that would be. There's some of the sights that these things have seen. Trees are obviously a big passion of mine, and it's something that I believe strongly we should all do our very best to protect, along with our ancient hedgerows, as I've highlighted in previous videos that I'll put a link to one of at the end of this one that wasn't filmed too far away from here. And as always guys, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss a single video, which is every Sunday at 6 p.m. And thank you so much for the support. Stick around, lots more cool videos to come. I've been looking at some amazing projects recently, as far north as Scotland and as far south as Devon and Cornwall. So lots of projects on the horizon for me, lots of cool videos therefore for you guys. And thank you all. Take care. I will see you all very soon.